Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. You know how we love to share incredible stories. I mean, this morning does our heart here at the OPT so big to have someone that has been in all of our homes for the last decade plus. Mr. Sherman Desselle from KALB joins us to talk about his journey and his exodus. Sherman, good morning and welcome for the very, very first time.
Good morning.
And you know all that came right out of my heart.
It did.
We're so excited for you and what God is doing in your life. And I'm just a sucker for stories. So I want to take you back to some 10, 11 years ago when you were starting out in this business, and this business may not have been your first choice.
No. It was not my first choice. Matter of fact, it wasn't on the radar at all. I just graduated from Northwestern with a vocal music performance degree.
And a lot of people don't know how amazing of a voice that you have.
Yeah.
So was it in your heart to be a performer and to be a singer?
It was. As some people may know, I mean, it runs in my family. We've all been involved in music or the arts in some kind of way for a long time. And that was something that I was really striving to do. But in the meantime, I moved back home until I figured out the next step. And so I was working part-time at a grocery store, working in the deli, because that was what I did when I was in college. And a guy would come in there every day around lunch.
Were you singing to him?
No, I wasn't. Matter of fact, I didn't realize that he had noticed me. And when he would come in, I mean, he would ask for a specific order because we would make sandwiches there. And I would just give his order and, be about his business. Well, one day we sparked a small conversation. He started asking me about my background. I told him that I just graduated from school. And he said, I work at KLB. I'm the content manager. Shout out to Eric Marshall. His name is Eric Marshall, and he's still in news, actually. Another part of the country. And he said, I'm looking for a videographer. I'm looking for a part-time photog is what we call them in news. And he asked if I was interested. I said, I honestly don't know anything about
photography.
What you're talking about. No idea. And he said, well, just if you want to check it out, you can check it out.
So what are you thinking? Like the deli and like arts and then news photography? Like none of that goes together.
Well, and when you're 22 years old, not too many things make sense anyway.
Sure.
And you're just looking for an opportunity to get out of a situation that you may not want to be in. And so while the deli was okay, it wasn't my final destination.
Sure.
And I said, well, this may be something. So
when do you make a decision that you're going to check it out?
Yeah. So I decided maybe the next day. I said, I'm going to check it out. And so I told him that I would stop by at a certain time. Well, okay, one thing that I'm very thankful for is that my father always told me to be prepared, and especially when it comes to getting a job. And so I said, well, I may walk in this thing and they may try to work with me or something. I don't know. But I put on a suit and I printed out some resumes and I walked in and I had no idea what I was walking into. The minute I walk in the newsroom, there's two people that I went to college with at Northwestern.
Wow.
Who were in news, who went there for journalism. And we automatically hit it off because we've seen each other, And then the then news director, Michelle Goddard, her office was inside of the newsroom. And she invited me in and we sat down for a 20-minute impromptu interview. She's just asking me a bunch of questions. The next day, Eric comes back into the grocery store and he says, hey, so what'd you think? I said, well, I like it. He said, well, if you want the job, it's yours. So at this point, I took the apron off. I said, if I can get this chicken flour off my feet,
chicken flour,
I'm out. So I worked both jobs for a couple of months. And then when I started getting into news, when I started working with other reporters and going out and seeing what was possible, I said, you know what, this will be cool to be able to do full time. So that was June. August and I'm full-time.
Wow.
So
are you bitten by the news bug?
I'm bitten by the news bug. I'm bitten by the fact that it's always different every day, that you get to do something, you get to talk to different people every day, that you find out interesting things about people and organizations and all that stuff. And so a month later, Hurricane Gustav hits.
Wow.
So it's Labor Day weekend, if I'm not mistaken. And that was the day that I was really bitten by the news bug, because at that point, in news, when things like that happen, all systems go. So we were wall-to-wall coverage at this point. We had water in the newsroom.
Wow.
Because of the flooding in the downtown area. And one of the photogs had to come and pick the other photogs up because of the high water levels. So we're all riding around, and at the same time, we have to get content. So I'm going out and I'm actually interviewing people as if I was a reporter.
Wow. What did that feel like?
It felt good, and it felt natural. It felt natural to be able to have a conversation with people and to see, what their concerns are, what they're dealing with, and to put myself in their shoes. And I got back to the station. We had all this content. And when you're wall to wall, you're looking for anything to talk about. So Renee Allen, if you remember Renee Allen.
I do.
Her and Al Quartermont were on the desk together. And Renee says, come up here on the desk. Come on the desk.
Uh-oh, what are you thinking?
I have on a T-shirt. No. I'm looking like a little ragamuffin. I was like, no, absolutely not.
Had you had dreams, though, of being on the desk?
I don't know. Thinking back, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I did, but when I got on the desk,
did it feel right?
I said, yeah, this is nice. So, there went my pursuit. But in every position, whether it was a photog or being a reporter or being an MMJ, a multimedia journalist, or being an anchor, it was always an experience. It wasn't just something that I just was given, and it was something that I felt like I earned.
And for each step, you put your heart in it and you do your absolute best.
I try. There are some times, just like in any job, where you could have done better, whether it be reaching a certain audience or talking to certain people or focusing on something. But the good thing about the news business is that you can always press the reset button. That's what we always used to say. If we mess up on something, press the reset button, come back to work tomorrow.
Wow. It's an incredible journey. When we come back, we're going to talk about being able to stay the course, and then when promotion happens, how you deal with that. Sherman Desselle is our guest this morning. Stay on point. We're back right after this. Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. Our guest this morning is Sherman Desselle, and he's talking about his journey through news, but what God has next for him. Sherman, when we went to the break, you were talking about getting on that desk for the first time. Then you go through this process of doing the work to move up. How are you able to sustain yourself? And are you wondering, will I ever move up? Will I only be a photographer? Will I ever be a reporter? How does that process happen for you?
Well, first, I'll say that my situation was very unique in the newsroom because I was one of the only local reporters. Most people don't understand that when you start off as a journalist, you start in a foreign area. You start away from home, away from family. You're not making that much money. You're constantly working. You're constantly getting critiqued. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And so I think the reason why I maintained in the times when I could have folded under pressure was because I had my family here.
They were your support.
They were my support, my family and my friends and my frat brothers and everything. That played a huge role in my success. So, when people see me doing whatever, I hope that they know that it's not just me that they see.
Sure.
There's a community behind me. So that's the
did
bigger
that
part
community
of that answer.
And that tribe, did that give you the confidence
Absolutely.
to keep forging on?
Absolutely, especially when you have a dad at home who's watching
every
day.
morning.
And So I got on the desk on the weekend for the first time.
What
it was
was
Super
that
Bowl
like?
weekend.
What was
It
that
was
like?
the weekend of the Saints winning the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So I get on the desk and I'm getting off the desk and I call my dad and say, hey, did you watch? He says, yeah, your tie was crooked. I'm thinking,
Is that all you saw?
That's all you saw? You didn't listen to me for 30 minutes, but it's fine. But, it's things like that, people really caring about not just what I did, but how I looked and how I presented myself. And that meant a lot.
Was it a weight, though, to carry a community that wanted to see you succeed and was rooting for you, not to let them down?
Sometimes it could feel like that, but I also knew that at the end of the day, it was up to me, and I had to be satisfied with what I was doing. It was nice to know that people were proud of what I was doing, but I didn't let their expectations weigh me down.
Good. So tell me about your faith on the journey.
Oh, that's huge. That's huge. I noticed that when I decided to really trust God in a lot of different areas in my job.
Do you know when that happened? Like when you really just said, okay, God, no matter what's happening, I'm going to trust you.
Yeah. I can tell you when. It was around that time. Around that time before I got on the anchor desk. I just wasn't really sure of what I was doing or which direction I could go. And we had also just completed an acquisition. And so when news organizations... They
bought more television stations?
Yeah, when news acquisitions go through acquisitions, it could be good, it could be bad.
Right. You could stay or you could go.
You could stay or you could go. Or it could just be a very bleak time in the newsroom. The morale can go down. So there was a lot of changes going on. And at the time, there was an opportunity for me to step up. But I didn't realize the whole time that all the things that I was doing, all the things that I went out of my way to learn, they were exactly what I needed to know for when I got on the desk.
Wow.
And a lot of the things that I learned in college, I could apply to the desk. My former news director, Keith Wise, he said, "You were a theater major. You did music. You did arts. This is your stage. The anchor desk is your stage.
This is your stage.
Just treat it that way." And when it came to reading scripts and following cues, it felt natural to me. So, but going back to my faith, it was around that time where I really began to trust God in different areas, not just in my work and my performance, but in my finances, in everything that concerned me. I just started giving it to Him. I was like, listen, clearly this is something that I should be doing, but I'm not quite sure of what to do. So help me look smart. I realized that God will help you He will help you look like the smartest person in the room, even when you don't feel like you know what you need to know, that wisdom that He can instill in you. So I really feel like there have been some times in my life where it was all supernatural. It wasn't just me, and a lot of people probably don't realize that, but I credit that a lot to just, on my church family and, them just helping me understand that I don't have to do it on my own.
And that's a hard thing, isn't it? Because in the flesh, we feel like we have to do something.
Absolutely.
But then when you really understand faith in God, you know that you just have to be in the position for Him to be able to bless you.
Yeah, because you can overexert yourself. You can get to the point where you're trying this and trying that. Well, you really just need to just be still a bit and just keep doing what you need to be doing. So
you be still and you stay there for 10 plus years. Do you ever say, God, when?
For sure.
How?
Absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely.
I've trained all of these people.
Yeah.
I've been faithful. I've served. When's my turn?
Yeah, well, and that question in particular didn't really come until much later, because I've been happy being in the role that I've been in. To work with so many talented people and to see them go off and do really great things, I think that's a special thing. A lot of people don't get to do that.
And it takes a special person to be able to do that.
You think so?
I know so. On this journey, oftentimes people don't have the willingness to give of themselves what they have, especially women. maybe men are a little bit different, but women could be a little bit dicey.
Sure. I think because of the home that I was brought up in, that might have something to do with it. Well, I know it has something to do with it. My father was always very patient with us and always made sure that we were aware of what we were capable of as individuals. And so I think I set out to just do that with the people that I would work with on the shift. I mean, especially that morning shift, that's a hard shift for any young journalist to be a part of. And so I felt like if I could help them, then it would help everybody.
Wow. And then so you start working with person after person. Did you start counting them or did you lose count?
I did count them. I think I'm on number 9 right now.
Number 9.
On that shift in
on
particular.
That shift.
Yeah, I think I'm on number 9 if I'm not mistaken. And I'm still friends with several of them.
And so how do you help to ease them into a position that you know for yourself, sitting on that desk for the first time, and how daunting and how intimidating and in every adjective that you could use? How do you help them to feel the ease to be able to do the job?
Sometimes it's really practical, doing some reads with them, some read-throughs, off the air, just getting comfortable with them, spending time with them, just hanging out with them off the clock. My wife and I have been able to, hang with a couple of people off the clock, or when the job is getting together and doing something, we try to do that just to ease the tension. But also I let them know up front, listen, I want you to be just as successful as the show has been. So if you don't feel confident, then I've missed the whole thing. So just let me know what you don't know or what you want to know. Just let me know, and I'll try to help you as much as I can. And I think that created this culture within my shift where when a new person would come, they knew that I could try to work with them. So it's just something that kind of just happened.
So it made it sort of seamless.
Yeah.
Instead of, that friction that could happen
absolutely.
Of not trying to help.
And it's also one of the advantages of a smaller market, because in a bigger market, you can only do so much of that. In a bigger market, you hit the ground running. You don't get a lot of coaching unless you have an agent. Sometimes it's make or break. For instance, there is a reporter in a much bigger market, a top 10 market that I just found out about through reading online. And she was doing a stand-up and she forgot the person's name for the story that she was doing. And she's been giving her 2 weeks notice.
Oh, wow.
It's that type of pressure that you get in a bigger market. You won't get necessarily.
You don't get a chance to
market.
make those mistakes.
Absolutely. And so in a smaller market, that's where you get groomed. That's where you get to have those tough conversations, and you get to watch yourself and cringe every time you see it. It's those type of things. So I think it was a special opportunity for me.
I love it. We're going to take a break here, but when we come back, we're going to talk about why preparation time is not wasted time and what's next for Sherman Desselle. Stay on point. Back after this. Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. This morning, we are saying well done to a man that has not only been in our homes for the last 10 plus years, but who has been a staple in Central Louisiana and this community. I'm talking about Sherman Desselle, and we're talking about his journey and what's next. But before we get to what's next, you have coached and worked with and given what information that you had to others. What have you learned from all of those 8, 9 different personalities that will help you think?
I've learned that everyone who works in everyone who has a traditional job, when it comes to just being an employee, especially for those in management, because I feel like in so many ways I was a manager, everybody needs to be managed differently. Everybody needs to be, I don't want to necessarily say, I don't want to come off like I want people to be coddled. or to,
But you have to understand what each person needs.
You have to understand what each person needs. You have to understand where their strengths are. And there's no cookie cutter way to manage people. If there was before, it doesn't exist anymore, especially in the time that we're in now. Younger people, they're coming out of college with mountains of debt and they have all this pressure. You got social media, so they're constantly comparing and contrasting like what they do versus what someone else does, what type of job they have. And so it's a lot more of a fragile thing nowadays to work with someone who's just getting into the workforce. So to know, to realize that from the jump, and to know that everyone has something that you should pay close attention to, that's really important. I don't think if I wouldn't have taken out the time to recognize that with my co-anchors, I don't think we would have been as nearly as successful as we've been.
Wow. So you sit, you wait, you do the work, you're faithful, and then opportunity.
Oh, it knocked.
Tell us about it.
It knocked. So about a year ago, I was contacted by an agent. And in television, unless you are aiming for a bigger job,
had you ever thought about aiming for a bigger job?
I did, but I didn't know what it looked like. And the thought of it scared me, quite honestly, just
Why?
because it was so different from what I had done before. And the goal was never to be in television in the beginning. And
so do you then question, okay, God, the goal was never to be in television, but I'm in television and I'm so vested. But then, so where do you fall?
Yeah, of course. You question what's next. You question if you're doing the right thing.
So do you hear from God that, okay, yes?
Yeah, I did. So much so to where when I would pursue other things outside of news, it just didn't feel right.
Wow.
Didn't feel right. It's like my pastor says, it's like taking a shower with socks on. You know what I mean? When you're walking around the house and you got socks on and your feet get wet, it's the most uncomfortable thing. So I knew that I needed to stick with broadcasting. And so that's what I decided to do.
And so you stay, and a lot of people would say, well, okay, all these other people have gone and doing whatever they're doing, and you stay. Are you moved by that? People coming and going?
Meaning, does it affect?
Did it affect your psyche? Did you say, okay, gosh, they're going? Or had you just made a decision that you were going to stay?
Yeah, no, I think what's kept me this whole time is having a peace of mind and being grounded and knowing that a job for one person in journalism doesn't necessarily mean that someone else should have the same job. All of those moves that I've seen my co-anchors make, I thought they were incredible. I cheered them on. I still do. But I knew that was for them.
Right.
And it wasn't until just recently that I felt like it was something for me.
Wow.
And that's when I decided to.
When did you know? Okay, so you get an agent. How does someone just sort of sees you?
So in TV, there's you put a reel up on YouTube or you got an active social media page, and an agent can see that because they're searching all day for another talent, someone else that they could promote. So I was approached by one about a year ago, and
what did you think?
I was flattered. Honestly, because I said, well, what do they see in me? But after talking with them and being coached and being critiqued, it was exactly what I needed to get to that next step. It was what I needed. I needed someone outside of my bubble,
your sphere of influence,
to really look at me and say, okay,
do this,
don't
do that,
don't do that. Yeah, exactly. And I think all of us need that.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, because sometimes we get complacent and we think that we know everything, and we think.
And you can never think you've got it.
No.
When you think you've got it,
that's when you crumble. Yeah, and so I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to really try to do well. So far, it's going pretty good.
And so then, when does the next thing happen? So she's critiquing you, and y'all have this relationship, and now you trust the critique.
Yeah.
And so when do you ask her, okay, when's the next thing going to happen?
I don't ask her at all, actually. It kind of happens really quickly.
Really?
Yeah. So, another station came knocking, and they gave me an opportunity to visit, and it was fantastic. And I'm looking forward to working with them.
And so who are they?
WDSU, Channel 6 in New Orleans.
Wow. That is B-I-G. That is big.
Add easy on the end of it.
Big easy.
For
Yes,
sure.
indeed. So do you have to pinch yourself?
I do, because not only am I amazed at the fact that I get to work with the oldest television station in Louisiana,
Wow.
but I get to work around some talented people.
Yeah. Probably some of the best in the country.
I think so. I think so. I think the New Orleans market is a very interesting market because there's so many different things that are happening.
So how do you throw your heart over the bar? You've been a local boy or a local man, a local boy and a local man
sure, both.
for forever. How do you throw your heart over the bar to go to this, just even though it's not that far, but everything changes?
It was a faith move. It was definitely a faith move. You know.
So do you get your circle of people around to pray to say, okay, God, is this?
Yeah, absolutely. And they trusted my judgment, and most importantly, my wife was on board. But I read Steve Harvey's book Jump not too long ago. I said, well, this is the jump. So,
This is the jump.
yeah, here we go.
What does the jump feel like? Tell us just a little bit.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Do you still kind of have like little butterflies?
Yeah, just because, I get to be a part of something really, really special and unique. So it's really fun. Yeah.
So what do you want to say to the people of Central Louisiana that have cheered you on, who have loved you, who are going to miss you? What do you want to say in this moment to all of those people in that camera?
That one?
That one right there.
The one in the middle? Oh, right there?
Right there.
Okay. I would say, first off, to those who aren't quite sure of what it is that they were meant to do, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, do it to the best of your ability because you never know who's watching. I asked my boss 2 years after I was hired, I said, what made you give me a shot? And he said, well, I figured if you could make me a sandwich the way I asked you to with a good attitude, then you could work for me. And so that level of obedience got me to where I am right now. Second thing I'd probably say is for those who are looking to give someone an opportunity, just know that it may take a little time. It may come in a different way. It may not come in a conventional way, but just know that you giving them a shot can mean the world to not just them, but to an entire community that they're in. I think that the opportunities that I've gotten here in Sinlaw have really helped to shape and mold me into the person that I am. And I thank everybody in Central Louisiana who have taken out the time to talk to me, including Carlette.
We thank you.
No, thank you so much. It's meant a lot. And so just know that although I'm going to New Orleans, you'll be right there with me. And you can download the app now and you can watch it then later. But it was definitely a faith move. And I appreciate everybody who has supported me throughout this whole time. Just know that someone else is going to come along at KLB who will be just, if not more talented. Just give them a shot. Don't critique them too hard. Just give them an opportunity to get their wings a little.
I bet they will, and I bet that you will be back because you still have your family here.
Yeah, my family's still here.
Sherman, thank you for your commitment and your perseverance. Thank you for sharing your journey, and may God bless you and your family in your next endeavor.
Thank you so much.
Indeed. Hey, everybody, Sherman Desselle, moving on up to the Big Easy. Stay on point. We're back after this. Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. This is my final point on point today. Nothing gives us greater pleasure than to cheer on, celebrate, and say farewell to Sherman Desselle. Sherman has been a fixture in our homes for well over a decade, and he has also been a community leader and a servant in this community. And when we first started talking, I started sharing with him about a year ago that I felt that there would be a change in his seasons and that he was on the cusp of something bigger than what he could even have imagined. And one of the things that we all watched with Sherman that I think every single one of us can learn from is that altruism that lives within him, that selflessness. You see, oftentimes when you see others move by you and are elevated to different places and moving out to different states and just doing things, and you're still sitting there and you're wondering, when is my opportunity? When is my turn coming? But you never saw any of that on Sherman. What you saw is him taking all of the people that were brought into his presence, and he trained them, he coached them, and he helped them along so that they could get better. We like to use Devon Franklin's analogy. He was carrying the crown, and now God has seen fit to promote him. See, here's where we all miss it. We think that promotion comes from man, and sometimes it does. But real true promotion comes from the divine. It comes from preparing yourself, being able to stand the test of time, and most importantly, that thing that none of us likes, waiting. But not just waiting arbitrarily, waiting in excellence, doing a great job right where you are. And we can all take away from that lesson that he was preparing. And he probably didn't even know what he was preparing for, had no idea, but just came to work, made himself useful. And I know that people that know him would probably say he was there helping and supporting others, not really taking much time to wonder, what about me? Year in, year out, we've watched him grow. We've loved him. He has become a part of our daily routines. And now we cheer at his promotion. He's going to New Orleans. And I know that with his work ethic, with his love for people and love for God, he is going to be embraced by NOLA, and he is going to do amazing things. And I think we can all have great takeaways from watching Sherman Desselle. We say to you, blessings, peace, and lots of success in the future. Farewell, Sherman Desselle. That's been my final point, on point today. Stay with us. We're back to wrap up right after this.